Yesterday, a report emerged suggesting that 300 director Zack Snyder would be developing a spin-off Star Wars movie, not Episode 7 for Disney and Lucasfilm. The film was said to take on the classic Akira Kurosawa masterpiece, Seven Samurai, and would take place in the Star Wars universe around the same time frame of the upcoming Star Wars Episode 7. A PR rep for Snyder has since denied the report, saying Snyder is currently too busy on post-production for both his upcoming Superman film, Man of Steel, and the new 300 sequel. John, you're a massive Star Wars fanatic.
Yes.
If this is true, how do you feel about it?
Okay, first things first. As we have said before, a PR person denying a report means nothing. It doesn't mean it's true. It doesn't mean it's not true. But just because Zack Snyder's PR person came out and said, oh, no, we deny this, doesn't mean anything. Once again, remind everybody, I had Bradley Cooper's PR person tell me like days before the official announcement came out that no, he's not going to be facing A-Team. He was facing A-Team. We had Marianne Cotillard coming out and saying, no, I'm not Talia al Ghul in The Dark Knight Rises. And guess what? She was Talia al Ghul in The Dark Knight Rises. I had Guillermo del Toro's rep saying, oh, no, those rumors about Guillermo del Toro directing The Hobbit are totally false. And guess what? Like a few weeks later, Guillermo del Toro is directing The Hobbit. Of course, 2 years after that, he had to drop out, but it was true. So him denying it doesn't mean that it's true, and it doesn't mean that it's not true. So let's assume for a second, that it's true. If it's true, Zack Snyder is a director I really like. I love 300. I don't love Watchmen, the job he did on Watchmen, and I really hated Sucker Punch. But I loved his animated film, The Owls, Legend of the Guardians, the Rise of the Owls of Gaul, or whatever it is. Right. I thought that animated movie was awesome, actually. I thought it was great. I do like his style of storytelling. I'm not sure he'd be the perfect fit for a Star Wars world, but let's skip Snyder for a second. Let's say, it looks like it is true that Disney is trying to develop not just Star Wars Episodes 7, 8, and 9. They're trying to develop other Star Wars movies that take place in the same universe. The brilliant thing about Star Wars is the universe is so brilliantly constructed. There's so many cultures and the way the politics of it all work and the adventure works. It's incredible. So this idea of taking a Seven Samurai story, which for those of you who aren't familiar with it, to put in real basic terms, this village that is being oppressed runs out and hires these 7 masterless samurai to come and defend them. And basically, Magnificent Seven was a remake of that in the Western context. The idea of like rogue Jedi being brought together to defend some settlement in the Outer Rim or something, I love it. I love the idea of developing these. Now, we know that the screenwriter for the guy who wrote the screenplay for Return of the Jedi and Empire Strikes Back has been hired on to work on scripts outside of Star Wars Episodes 7, 8, and 9. So this could very well be it. So 2 things. If it's Zack Snyder, I'm okay with it. It was not my first choice, but I'm very interested. But even if it's not Zack Snyder, the idea of taking a Kurosawa thing like Seven Samurai and putting it in the context of the Star Wars universe at the same time that Star Wars Episode 7 is happening, then it kind of feels like an Avengers sort of thing. Schnepp, what about you? What do you think about all this?
Well, it's when you mentioned Seven Samurai, in space movies, I instantly think of Battle Beyond the Stars.
How bad was that?
On Netflix right now. John Boy with the giant mole. Hey, his planet's in trouble. He's got to go get like a whole bunch of dudes.
Space Cowboy. He's got to go get Hannibal Space Cowboy.
Yes. Just call. My name is Space Cowboy.
That was his name.
That is his name. My name is Space Cowboy. I just watched it like 3 nights ago. I was like, oh yeah, Battle Beyond the Stars. It's so funny. Yeah. Snyder on the Star Wars samurai movie. If that's gonna happen, that sounds cool. I mean, I think everyone learned that Sucker Punch, him writing, is maybe like something that he needs to take a little more time with as far as the writing aspect to it. Just
right.
Sucker Punch had some great visuals in it, but and I loved Watchmen. I thought it was a great adaptation. I mean, they got rid of the squid, but there's it could have been done completely different. Like Greengrass was going to do it, or it could have just been a spot on, like almost storyboard note for note thing that Snyder did, which I thought was great, just as a fan of the comic for 20 years, to finally see the comic book kind of brought to life with most of the lines, even though uncredited, Alan Moore wrote it. They didn't change that much. The lines they added sucked. So you could tell that's when, like, I've read the comic book so many times that I noticed when lines were different. I was like, why didn't they just leave the lines the way they were in the comic? Because they changed it, and I don't think they really actually even understood what Alan Moore was writing. So you could tell that when we changed this one thing. It's like, I know, but you didn't get it. But anyway, that's another conversation. Snyder on Star Wars, why not? I think it's great. Matthew Vaughn is going to be doing Star Wars 7, so I'm really happy about that. ABC has announced that they're going to do that weird Coruscant spy TV series that all takes place in between Star Wars, Return of the Jedi, and Clone Wars, so that can be really cool.
Yeah, but they've been talking about a Star Wars TV series for this is one of those things where I'll believe it when I see it. I mean, they've been talking about a Star Wars TV series for like literally 10 years.
But the reason it makes sense is Disney owns ABC.
Oh yeah, it absolutely makes more sense now. But it's just like the thing. And Matthew Vaughn, once again, I'll believe it when I see it. I mean, I don't believe the Matthew Vaughn thing personally, but one of the things that really makes me interested about this story, though, is if they could kind of say, look, if they've got separate stories going on all over the place in the Star Wars universe, like Star Wars 7, 8, and 9, which is clearly going to follow one story track, you can then kind of create an Avengers kind of world where, okay, you've got this separate thing going on with these rogue Jedi on some distant planet that's completely unrelated to Star Wars 7, 8, and 9, but it's in the same time frame. Well, that means now you've opened up the door that if you wanted to, you could tie these rogue Jedi in later, maybe into the ends of episode 8 or episode 9 or beyond. You can start creating other bounty hunter stories or other different types of stories that at first seem like completely independent, isolated, encapsulated stories. But if they're in the same universe, you leave the door open for yourself to tie them all together. And if they've got that kind of foresight, which they apparently do because that's what they hired Joss Whedon for. That's what they've been doing with the Marvel films. So clearly Disney has this kind of foresight. If they're doing that, it takes my excitement level to like raging geek boner, like way up here. So yeah, I'd be really, really stoked about it.
There has been speculation about some standalone films that are in development. I can confirm to you today that in fact we are working on a few standalone films. Larry Kasdan and Simon Kinberg are both working on films derived from the great Star Wars characters that are not part of the overall saga. We will still plan to make episodes 7, 8, and 9 roughly over a 6-year period of time starting in 2015. There are going to be a few other films released in that time too. John, buy or sell? Star Wars standalone films?
I'm going to cheat here. I'm going to go both. I buy the idea of there being standalone films. We've talked before about this whole rumor going around about maybe Zack Snyder doing a Seven Samurai version of a bunch of, wandering Jedi who help. Love that idea. But I sell it if they're going to go back to old Star Wars characters. If they're going to go back to Yoda, if they're going to go back to Jabba the Hutt, even if they go back to Boba Fett, one of the greatest Star Wars characters ever, but it doesn't matter because I don't want any more prequels. Listen to me closely. Prequels are stupid when it comes to the Star Wars universe. Don't do them.
Disney has confirmed that they and their company Lucasfilm are going to be producing several Star Wars standalone films, as well as the new trilogy of episodes 7, 8, and 9, which will start in the summer of 2015. On the heels of that announcement, the magazine Entertainment Weekly is reporting that they've discovered the first 2 standalone Star Wars movies will be about Han Solo. Set sometime between the events of Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, and original Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. The second film would focus on the bounty hunter Boba Fett. Set sometime between Episode 4, A New Hope, and Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. Steve, let's start this with you. Assuming the validity of this report, are you good with Han Solo and Boba Fett movies?
Absolutely not. I might be in the minority, but I'm completely against providing more backstory to characters that we have seen in the original trilogy. I think that any spin-off movie should focus on new characters and new places and expanding the Star Wars universe to areas that we have not seen. I do think, though, that we should asterisk all this by saying after all these announcements came out, reports basically said that Disney is spinning the wheels right now in terms of talking about every possibility for a spin-off movie. whether it be Yoda, whether it be Emperor Palpatine, whether it be anybody. But as I said earlier, I really am against spin-off movies involving characters we've already seen.
Steve is both wise and shrewd. Yeah, no, I don't like this idea at all. I've said this before on the show. I will say it again. It is time for Star Wars to get away from the prequel nonsense. We've got enough stuff behind. The beauty of Star Wars and its universe is the vastness of it. There is so much there to explore. It's time to move forward and not backwards. Now, look, I would have been okay with the idea of a Boba Fett movie under the assumption in some of the graphic novels that suggest that Boba Fett actually escaped from the Sarlacc pit in Return of the Jedi, and it's a new film moving forward after Return of the Jedi with Boba Fett. Okay, I'd be okay with that. But as much as I love Han Solo, as much as I love Boba Fett, I am done with prequels. Please just move forward. It's coming from Entertainment Weekly, so, I mean, that's a fairly reliable source, but I really hope it's not true.
The plan from Disney seems to be Episode 7 in 2015, 8 in 2017, and Episode 9 in 2019, with individual spin-off movies in the in-between years of 2016, 2018, and 2020. This week, Disney CFO Jay Rasulo described the spin-off movies as origin stories, suggesting that some of the planned features may provide insight into how fan-favorite characters began their adventures a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. It's been long rumored that the first film in 2016 would revolve around either Han Solo or Yoda.
I gotta say, I feel the opposite. I dig it because since we're already getting 7, 8, and 9, we're getting the forwards Star Wars and we're getting the backwards Star Wars. And if they do Han Solo, we can see the Kettle Run. We're
The
gonna
Kessel
get to
Run, yeah.
The Kessel Run, sorry. I was like, Kettle Run?
Kettle?
We could see the Kettle Run, guys.
Sounds
Anyway.
like an Olympic event,
Yeah,
you know?
it's Han Solo lifting parsecs. And I'd love to see a little tiny baby Yoda. How cute would that be? Like Yoda and his other weird Yoda family. Like, how did he become all kung fu? You know, it's like him with the metal brand, like, the training. I don't know. I'm down with it. And every year we'll know in 3 years.
Yeah.
We'll be like, look, we saw 2 of the forwards ones and 2 of the backwards ones. Maybe they'll change their whole thing. And now we're doing Boba Fett, like a whole bounty hunter's adventure, which could take place during The Empire Strikes Back. It's not necessarily a prequel, but it's like, hey, how did all those guys get together?
However, Walt Disney Company CEO Bob Iger confirmed today during a Q2 fiscal 2014 earnings conference call that at least 3 Star Wars films are in development beyond the new trilogy of saga chapters. Schnepp, buy or sell, Disney already being committed to 3 Star Wars off-saga movies.
Bye. Very excited. Thank you, Bob Iger, however you say your name. I'm glad to hear that. I know that the Boba Fett thing is going through some weird changes because Disney doesn't want like an anti-hero. And it's like, but Boba Fett's an anti-hero. He's a bounty hunter. It's like, how evil is he? Like, yeah, he captured Han Solo. He didn't kill him. He was delivering him to Jabba. Is he like a merciless dude who just like cuts people's heads off? We haven't seen that. So no, he's not like some evil killing creature. Like, so I don't know what's going to happen with that, but I'm really excited to see more spin-offs, more standalones. We had discussed that earlier, whether Darth Maul is canon or not, and now that we know him and the Spider Legs are friends,
that's canon now.
Yeah, that's canon. So it doesn't have to be a prequel, though. I would love to see a Knights of the Old Republic prequel. Me personally, I don't need to see like how the Jedi and Sith were born or like go that far back. But I would love to see some of that stuff that played out in that amazing RPG. So I'm all for it. I buy it 100%.
Chris Weitz has been hired to work on the screenplay for the upcoming Star Wars spin-off movie, set to hit AMC theaters on December 16, 2016. Weitz was nominated for the screenplay adaptation of the 2002 film About a Boy, and also wrote the upcoming live-action Cinderella film for Disney on March 13th. Mark Byers tells Chris Weitz writing the Star Wars spin-off film.
I'm buying it because Chris Weitz is a huge Calvin and Hobbes fan. This guy knows source material. I'm gonna buy it. That he, you say Academy Award nominated writer, and that's all well and good. He wrote About a Boy, which is terrific. He wrote Ants. He wrote The Nutty Professor 2, I believe, and those are, I think, his best 3 credits as far as screenwriting goes. Until you get to Cinderella, and Cinderella is a film that trailer surprised me. I know, obviously, it's a Disney property.
Too.
They're very excited about the live action element, and it seems like they want to do that with their other films now. So they have a lot riding on Cinderella. So they have this much confidence in the guy that can pull that off to do a Star Wars spinoff. Then I think Disney I'm starting to get that Marvel feel from Disney where they're starting to make all the right moves. They're starting to get a lot of momentum. They seem to be in a rhythm with not only the Marvel stuff, but now with Star Wars as well. So I think this is a good move going forward, and I have confidence in it.
According to the report, Canadian actress Tatiana Maslany from the TV series Orphan Black, Academy Award-nominated actress Rooney Mara from The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and Oscar-nominated actress Felicity Jones from The Theory of Everything are all up for the role. Christian, do you like any of these names for the first Star Wars spinoff?
I like all of those names, and I like it. Just goes back to what we were talking about with Star Wars casting before The Force Awakens came out. They are going after quality talent. They're going after the people, not only what's hot, but people that are respected and hot. You know, because Rooney Mara was someone I wanted in. I wanted to play a Sith Lord, but I think it's prediction, speculation. I think it is going to be the bounty hunter movie about stealing the plans, and I think she's going to play a bounty hunter. She's going to be one of the bounty hunters that is part of stealing the plans. I think it's going to focus on Boba Fett in general. Whether or not he's a villain or not, we'll see. But I love these particular names, Rooney Mara and Felicity Jones. Yeah, I haven't watched that show.
Orphan Black is incredible.
But that's what I hear. And from everyone that I've talked to so far about her, they're like, yeah, she's great too. So I love it. I'm excited. You're going to hear more. Now that Strange Magic is in the theater and Lucasfilm is focusing more attention, you're going to start hearing more information about the spinoff. I think this is, kind of leaked as far as getting these names out there, who's testing, to start hearing what the fans like us are talking about.
This is a very smart leak, too, because it also shows they're paying attention to the fans, because the reaction to the first casting announcement for The Force Awakens was pretty much all dudes. And a lot of people were like, oh, you're not putting women in this movie. Now, one of the first thing we're talking about with this new spinoff is that there's 3 females that are up for a lead role. So that's exciting, I think, for everybody, where it's like, oh, it's not just going to be focused on dudes. Even if it's about bounty hunters, females can be bounty hunters, too.
Totally.
And I think Rooney Mara would be fantastic as, like, Boba Fett's chick.
I think she'll be a Mandalorian. I think so.
Yeah, she could wear his varsity jacket.
Cast Oscar-nominated actress Felicity Jones to star in a Star Wars spin-off movie directed by Godzilla director Gareth Edwards. It is not known what the story will be or which character Jones will play, but About a Boy writer Chris Weitz will be penning the screenplay. Christian, what do you think of the news of Felicity Jones and her own Star Wars spin-off movie?
I'm so sick of Star Wars. Come on! This is great. I love this. You're kidding me. I love it. And the fact that now we heard about Tatiana Maslany, that she had gotten this. Apparently that's not the case. Looks like Felicity Jones is part of this. We don't know necessarily how much of the lead she is. She's going to have a big prominent role. What rumors, if you want to listen to rumors, is some people think she might be playing Sabine from the Rebels series, which would be great because that actually fits in and would make sense because she would be a bounty hunter and a Mandalorian, depending on what has happened since Rebels. But from all the rumors that we've heard, that it's going to be a Usual Suspects type movie with the bounty hunter stealing the plans for the Death Star, if that is indeed the case, I'm all for it because Felicity Jones is awesome. She's great. Everything she's been in so far, she's one of the... It's, to me, exactly what Star Wars has been doing so far since Disney bought the rights. They're going after quality talent. They're going after people. Each movie, we're getting one a year now. Go after quality talent, quality directors. I'm in. Alicia?
Yeah, I'm definitely in. Speaking from an indie lover's perspective, I noticed Felicity Jones in Like Crazy, and she was so vulnerable and so really heartbreaking in that role. And then to see her in The Theory of Everything, where she has this quiet strength about her. And then I just watched True Story at Sundance with Jonah Hill and James Franco, and she plays Jonah's girlfriend. She has this one great monologue where she delivers it, and she's so powerful. So I love the fact that she's going to be doing some action now, because we've seen what she can do acting-wise, and now she's given the chance to do a big studio film. I think it's great.
But as happens sometimes, this happens to us a lot. We have all these stories here, we prepared all these stories, but something dropped like literally about 15 minutes ago that we didn't prepare graphics or anything for. Star Wars news just dropped. Bob Iger came out, just made a big announcement on behalf of Disney. Christian, what is happening?
All right, so here's what officially from StarWars.com is that Rogue One is the title for the first film in a unique series of big screen adventures that explores the characters and events beyond the core Star Wars saga. It's going to be directed by Gareth Edwards and written by Chris Weitz, which we knew. We knew that those guys were part of the team, but we didn't know that it was called Rogue One.
We've got a name.
Yes, and Bob Iger also confirmed Rian Johnson for writing and directing Episode 8. But as far as Rogue One goes, this is interesting because they made it a point to focus on the fact that it's exploring characters just beyond the Star Wars core. So I think we'll see people that pop that we recognize, whether it be a Boba Fett or even maybe a Han Solo. And by the way, and they also announced that Felicity Jones is finally confirmed in the role. No one else but Felicity Jones. So what does this mean? Does this mean that we'll tie in characters from maybe Rebels? Does it mean that we're going to see brand new characters that will maybe introduce that could pop up into episode 8? It's very interesting, and I love the idea that maybe we're going to see how the Rogue Squadron began, because it's Rogue One. So maybe it's the beginning of the Rogue Squadron.
Now we also know who will be composing the score for the film. Academy Award-winning composer Alexandre Desplat, who just won the Oscar this year for the Grand Budapest Hotel, revealed in an interview this weekend that he will be handling the music for the film, which sees him reunite with director Gareth Edwards, for whom he composed the music for last year's blockbuster Godzilla. There was a lot of Star Wars universe news going on this weekend as Star Wars Celebration drew to a close. Included in that news was our first bit of official information about the upcoming film Rogue One, which we now know will officially be titled Star Wars Anthology Rogue One. The official short synopsis reads like this: a band of Resistance fighters unite for a daring mission to steal the Death Star plans. John, buy or sell this new information on Star Wars Anthology Rogue One?
I buy it for several reasons. Let's start with the title. I really, at first, when I saw Star Wars Anthology Rogue One, it took me back, but I thought, you know what? That's great. It clearly sets up the distinction between your main Star Wars storyline involving the Skywalkers and the Solos and where that goes, and what are the other stories in the Star Wars universe, just by what's in the title. I love that. And if you saw that little teaser clip, that's not from the movie because they haven't started production of it yet, but just that coming out of that forest canopy in the cave and then out, and then you just see the huge Death Star on the horizon. It's like, that's awesome. I also like the synopsis, although it's a bit of a surprise. We were all expecting to hear a band of bounty hunters are going after. No mention of bounty hunters in this whatsoever. So either A, they're trying to keep that under wraps, even though everybody's been talking about it, or B, surprise, surprise, the internet was wrong, and it's not about bounty hunters who are hired to go and get it, and it's going to be a Boba Fett-centric movie. Maybe it won't be now. Maybe all that was complete bull. But either way, I like the way they presented this. It felt good. I liked it. So for me, it's a buy.
A new report from Variety claims that actor Diego Luna has been cast as the male lead in the upcoming Star Wars anthology Rogue One. Luna will star opposite the previously announced Academy Award nominee Felicity Jones, as well as Riz Ahmed, Nightcrawler, Sam Claflin, Hunger Games and Snow White and the Huntsman, and Ben Mendelsohn, The Dark Knight Rises. Rogue One follows a rogue band of Resistance fighters united to steal the Death Star plans and bring new hope to the galaxy.
This is a huge buy for me, and not just with Diego Luna.
This isn't even buy and sell, and I'm buying
I think he's, I bought it because you bought it.
I know. I started the domino chain.
Did I miss
something, guys?
Yeah. Christian didn't buy it. The internet's going to set on fire.
Forrest Whitaker has joined the first Star Wars anthology film Rogue One. He joins the cast of Felicity Jones, Diego Luna, Riz Ahmed, and Ben Mendelsohn, along with director Gareth Edwards. No details on what Whitaker's character or role will be. The Star Wars anthology Rogue One opens on December 16, 2016. Christian Barisel, Forrest Whitaker joining the first Star Wars spin-off film.
This is so weird overall. Not Forrest Whitaker, but because has it even been? Nobody's really been confirmed except Felicity Jones, right? Because everyone's pretty strongly considered. Even Ben Mendelsohn, who's been considered for months, hasn't said he's been on yet. But the names that they're putting together, yeah, Forrest Whitaker's a buy. Can't you see him around the table having all the rebels come in? And he's like, "This is what we got to hit," and he's going into the whole just the mission in general. And you can see him yelling at soldiers. You can see him mentoring soldiers. I could see the whole entire thing. I could plan that out with him. He's a big enough. He's a face that you recognize for sure, and know, that's Forrest Whitaker. But it not big enough to where you're like, I can't take him serious in the Rebel, or maybe he's in the Empire. That'd be interesting. But I think he'd most likely be like a commander in the Rebellion.
I just want him to be a 12-foot alien, and when they have that meeting, I want him to be like, leverage, young human. Where's your breathe mask? Look, he's an Oscar winner, but he was in Battlefield Earth, so
true.
I'm all for his casting of Rogue One, but I just think that he should play an alien that's 12 feet tall with dreadlocks.
Reports have begun to circulate that the upcoming 2016 film, Star Wars Anthology Rogue One, will have a familiar villain. According to the reports, Darth Vader himself will appear in the film, although not as the main bad guy, but more in the role of puppet master in the background. Star Wars Anthology Rogue One hits theaters in December next year. Mark, is it a good fit is it a good move to put Darth Vader in the new film?
It's a home run, and it's something that I think this is news that we all expected to hear. We just, now that we actually get to hear these rumblings, we all get very excited because Darth Vader he's coming into his own. If you're familiar with the Star Wars canon, which you and Christian are more so than myself, but even I'm aware that Darth Vader is already going on missions. And if you watch Star Wars Rebels, which is a fantastic show and great catch-up viewing for people who want to get more into Rogue One, because I think those two things are going to tie in pretty heavily. Darth Vader's around. I mean, he's the guy at the beginning of A New Hope who's going on these missions looking for whoever stole the Death Star plans, which is the ultimate outcome of the movie Rogue One. It's going to be an intense war film, and Darth Vader working in the background. I don't need to necessarily see Darth Vader engaged in lightsaber battles. That feels like more of the Skywalker storyline, but him giving orders, getting upset, force choking some people, that's exactly the kind of Darth Vader that I want to see.
All right, guys, we've reached that part of the show for opening this week, brought to you by our friends at AMC Theaters. There's one big juggernaut of a film opening this week. Ashley, tell us about it.
Cue the cheers, because it's Rogue One. In a time of conflict, a group of unlikely heroes band together on a mission to steal the plans to the Death Star, the Empire's ultimate weapon of destruction. This key event in the Star Wars timeline brings together ordinary people who choose to do extraordinary things, and in doing so, become part of something greater than themselves.
Okay, so all of us at this table now have had a chance, including Jeremy Johns, has had a chance to see Rogue One. So, Jeremy, let's start with you. Your overall thoughts on Rogue One. Should people be going out to see it this weekend?
I'm not supposed to plug my review on here, am I?
You can plug your review.
I think you just did.
Yeah. You can find my review on YouTube right now for a more in-depth analysis. Should they go to it? Yes. Does the movie have problems? A couple. However, does it compromise the overall experience? No, it does not. This throws back to, we're talking episode 4 before it was episode 4. This is like old school Star Wars. It's not lightsabered out. It's blasters. It's stormtroopers. It's a mission. It's a thing they gotta do for the greater good of the galaxy far, far away. I ate it up like candy. It's one of those movies I got out of and I was like, I really enjoyed it. However, I'm going to sit on this for a bit before I review it because I need to marinate on that. You know when Kevin Smith says it's like Empire Strikes Back?
Yeah.
I think, and this is the way I'm like, he's not wrong, in the sense that Empire Strikes Back, when people got out of it, was like, it's enjoyable. And then when time went on, it got better and better and better as it really soaked in. They digested the information a bit, and I think in that respect, it is a lot like Empire Strikes Back. So, yes, the movie is better now than it was 10 minutes ago, which was better now than it was 10 minutes before that. I really liked it.
Mark, what about you?
I thought this was a great Star Wars movie, both if you're a fan of Star Wars lore or if you just want to see a really great war movie. What this movie does for the Star Wars fan is it's so good at building the mythology and world building and showing us new places in the Star Wars universe that every time you feel like, oh, everything in Star Wars has been explored, there's so much new in this movie, but it still feels like it's in the time period right before A New Hope. I think what Gareth Edwards brought to the table from a directing standpoint is a story that really showed us what the rebellion is like from a desperation standpoint, is that we got to see what the boots on the ground look like, that it's not just this great glowy, oh, we're the rebellion and we're all happy and we're the good guys. No, there's a lot of shades in this film, and the bottom line is that the action is so intense. The way it builds up to a climactic scene is so well done, both by the actors involved and by everybody behind the scenes. If I was to criticize this movie, I would say that I think that the second act gets a little long, gets a little meaty, it gets a little slow sometimes, especially if you're not a Star Wars fan. You might be looking at your watch a little bit, but that's going to go away once we hit the third act. Everything about this movie made me happy that I was a Star Wars fan. I think it's a worthy follow-up to last year's The Force Awakens. And as soon as you see this movie, prepare yourself, because you're going to want to run home and watch A New Hope when you simmer down from the excitement this movie leaves you with.
Now, I do want to touch on that, is that, you know, a lot of movies are like, well, in the third act, it kind of falls apart a little bit.
A lot of movies that happen.
This is the best third act I've seen in a while. The most exciting, anyway. And in terms of the Star Wars movies, probably the most exciting third act.
Schnapp, you had a chance to see it last night. Actually, you're the freshest set of eyes on it. What did you think about Star Wars Rogue One?
Journal of the Wills. Now, that's the thing that George Lucas called Star Wars back before it actually had it being called Star Wars. This felt like a true Star Wars film. To me, its heart is based right with The New Hope. To me, like, for me, the opening was a little bit slow. But like without going into spoilers, I think it ramps up. Act 2, I really started getting invested in the characters, and Act 3, I was all in, and I absolutely love the film. There are certain elements to it. To me, we'll just call it the uncanny valley. Let's leave it at that. Google it. I don't want to get into spoilers, but for myself, it took me out of the movie. With that being said, everything else in the film, I absolutely love K2SO. He is my favorite character.
He was the surprise of the film. He was the surprise of the film. Yeah, absolutely.
And as a matter of fact, anytime, any moment, I was like, this scene is getting a little long in the tooth. That guy showed up and gave me a little laugh. So I felt like it's really a great film. I mean, I have to say that even if it has nothing to do with Star Wars, this remedies any problems I had with the prequels. I'm like, look, you never have to watch those again. The only prequel that exists to Star Wars: A New Hope is Rogue One, and just start with that. That's your starter kit. So,
okay, so here's the thing, I absolutely adored this film, and I'm like you. The more that time passes between when I saw it now, the more and more I like it. Now, I'm going to say something, and I mentioned this in our official Rogue One review, it goes more in depth. It is up on our channel right now. You can go and check that out. One of the things I mentioned there is I'm very much in the minority because everybody just gets crazy about how great this film gets as it progressively goes along. I might have even actually liked the first half of the movie more. To me, and I mentioned this before too, it reminded me a lot of The Dirty Dozen. Not in the plot points, but that feel of the opening, this meeting these characters, understanding their context, they're moving along, heading towards this near impossible thing they need to do, right? And I just soaked it. I loved it. And then it gets into a completely different kind of a movie once you get into the second half of the movie, which just then blows your mind. It is fun. It's exciting. It is by far and away, the original trilogy aside, is by far and away my favorite Star Wars movie. To me, it is better than The Force Awakens. And I really enjoyed The Force Awakens. To me, this is a better film. I adored it. It was everything I was hoping it would be. I couldn't have been happier. I am still pissed at the lack of an opening crawl. I am still pissed about that. I did find it jarring when the movie started, the opening crawl. But you know what? If my biggest complaints can be simmered down into a 2-minute window, that's a pretty damn good thing, because I just adore this movie. And oh, look! Ken Knapsack is here.
It's magic. Power
Ken
of the Force.
Knapsack is here, who also saw this movie yesterday.
I've always wanted to replace Mark Ellis on things. Sports reference, baby carrots. Saw it yesterday. Thanks to this wonderful man, Jeremy Jones. I was his date to the screening. Thank you, JJ.
You know what? Best date I've ever had.
Look, my overall reactions, I had to calm down. You guys saw me there. I was like, that's my favorite Star Wars movie ever. I had to calm down and relax. Obviously, I think the original saga, when you're tied to the main stories. But when in 1983 I came out of Return of the Jedi, and the next day at school I went to the playground for recess and said, guys, let's play Star Wars. This movie is what I was playing. This has some of my absolute favorite Star Wars stuff. Now, does it stand up on its own? I think it does. But if you don't know the references to the Star Wars novelization of A New Hope that are in this movie, you mentioned Journal of the Whills is one, but there's some other references, some other deep cuts, you might not get to enjoy it as much as I did. A lady next to us at the screening turned to me right before the beginning and said, now this is the sequel to the one that comes out last year. No. That woman might not enjoy it as much as me.
It really happened.
Fair criticism. Did
you give her the Vulcan hit? And sleep?
And sleep. Well, she pointed the screen at Felicity Jones and said, that's the same woman from last year. I said, no, but they are both British. That's the start. There are some things, there are some risks that they took that might not pay off for some at others. I was surprised they took some of those risks. Right. It's very brave. You can decide whether it's there. But I'm telling you, yes, the characters in Force Awakens might have been better for me because we need them to be. We're going to be with those characters for 3 films. But we don't know at the end of this movie, you know, the characters, they serve a great purpose. They serve a great purpose to the bigger story. And I'm excited that we have these new characters in Star Wars lore.
Can I also add a non-spoiler? This actually made Star Wars make more sense. This made A New Hope
absolutely
make more sense because of the machinations of the plot and the story. It gave so much more depth to the rebels, to the cause, to everything. That it's
Yeah.
like now when you see A New Hope, if you see Rogue One, there's such a multi-layered story behind everything.
Yeah, and that's an important point because I think a lot of people, people will see either a prequel or a sequel to a certain film and they'll go, well, that takes away from that original film for me. We heard the complaints about the prequels and other film franchises as well. I think you're bang on the money. This is a film that will make you appreciate the original Grandmaster Star Wars even more.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And if you had asked me if that was possible, I would say no.
Right.
Before seeing the film, no. Let's not set our expectations that ridiculously high that'll even add to. But it does.
Yeah, I'm getting goosebumps right now
Yeah.
just talking about it. Like, I want to see it again.
My heartbreak moment was when I got home. I was like,
when you got home, okay, don't
I
don't spoil anything.
My gosh, man, I'm a professional here. Who do you think you have hired here? This is highly irregular. But when I got home, I wanted to put in the original Star Wars, the original New Hope, and I was like, I have a review to do. So I haven't watched it yet, and that's my heartbreak moment because I want to just pop into New Hope right there and just watch the next chapter in this saga. But yeah, it really is. It's a film that is more in line with what we, as old people, grew up with in Star Wars. And so now there's a whole new generation of kids who will get that feeling we got. I don't know. I appreciate that. I love that. I love that there are these new Star Wars films coming out where kids will look back and be like, no, Rogue One's the best one ever. And I'll look at that kid when they're 18, 19, I'll be like, yeah, good for you. Yes, sure. I'm glad that you get that. I think that's great.
It's funny because I didn't get home from the after party until like 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
so
that's cool.
I couldn't watch it then. So, but we're going to go see it Thursday night, 7 p.m. with an audience here in Burbank, with the full audience. And we've already planned our evening. We're going to do that. We're going to go with a couple of friends, grab a drink. And then Ann and I are going to go right back home. We're going to have Rogue One already queued up in the Blu-ray player. We're going to have it ready to go. Or not Rogue One, the New Hope. Have it ready to go. Just get home, hit play, and just keep it going.
Question: special edition or despecialized edition?
Despecialized. That's the one I have.
I wish I did, but unfortunately, the disc version I have is the.
I will bring in my despecialized version and give it to you so you could watch it.
Yes,
I'll bring it in tomorrow.
Awesome.
Yeah,
that is awesome.
I got the despecialized. I printed out labels. I bought Blu-ray cases. They're on my Blu-ray shelf in like official old school jackets.
You sweaty.
Oh, dude. Yeah, oh, yeah. It's right there. It's like it goes original trilogy, Force Awakens. It's like right there. I'll show you. But one of the great things is after Ken and I get out, I turned to him, after we step out of the theater, I was like, what'd you think? And Ken literally, stone face, was like, let's get to the car. And I was like, okay. And I was like, so what'd you think? He's like, let's just get in the car. And you would swear he had the plans to the Death Star on him. Like, don't tell anybody. We just need to get in the car. And so right when the door closed, he's like, oh my gosh, that was really it. So then we just started gushing about it.
I had an
It was really
emotional
good.
reaction.
It was-
Again,
it was
and
good.
I love these characters. I want to spend more time with these characters. I'm going to watch this movie over and over
Mm-hmm.
again. It is a great addition to the Star Wars universe. Where does it rank? I don't know.
Yeah, it's too early for me.
It's-
Like,
yeah, no,
next
yeah,
year,
We all
I'll
need to go see it. Maybe next Tuesday or Wednesday.
Oh, dude, come on! Every day next week is going to be
I know,
lunch
but I'm just saying
meeting
I want
across
to
street
go
at the movie theater
because I cheered 3 times out loud. One of them by myself in the theater.
He did too.
And
Me
me
too.
and
Me too.
Riley were seated like 3 people apart, and the 2 people were just like looking at us like, "Whoa, why are these people?" We were
Nerds.
I think we was the same moment.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
I had the same.
With
I
no
went
spoilers.
I went like this.
Started
Yeah.
a slow clap that never happened.
Literally, you're like, I can't believe they did. That's so smart and amazing and great.
I agree. Yeah, Ken goes. No one, and I looked at him. I was like, I got the reference. I got that.
I got back from lunch. And I pull into my parking spot, and standing out in the parking lot are Jeremy, Ellis, and Ken. All just stand there, and I'm pulling up, and I look at the three. All 3 of them are like, and because they had just gotten back from the screening.
Yeah,
so.
we were reenacting parts like with our personage,
Right.
like
Well,
we're on the playground. It was good.
at lunch, we're going to go play Star Wars in the parking lot. It's great.
Hey,
You're invited.
here's a sound effect. Is that a spoiler? It's not. I don't know.
I'm going to give this movie 8.9.
For me, I give it a 9 out of 10.
Look, the main thing that this thing was supposed to do was get people excited for movies that didn't have anything to do with the Skywalkers minus Darth Vader, but as far as telling that particular story, but them being the focal point, and it succeeded in that. It was an original story set
in a familiar background. There were new characters involved. There were new things that we needed to learn about. So I agree with you guys as far as what Force Awakens had to do was get everybody excited about the possibility to do movies like this, and Force Awakens succeeded that way. This movie was the first to say, we're going to do a lot in this universe. I think that a lot of the way that it's shot, I want it all to look like that. I do want to see tones start to shift a bit because I want them to experiment the way that they are, the way that Marvel has, with the way the Winter Soldier was the spy movie, and the way that Ant-Man was a heist movie, and the way that Han Solo is going to be the swashbuckling kind of Western/pirate movie. This gives that movie and others the platform to do it. It is done very well. Please get a composer at least to put 3 months beforehand. But other than that, I really enjoyed what this movie did. Yeah, I have my flaws with it, but it's a great time to be a Star Wars fan. You leave energized. It's an amazing experience. Kudos to Gareth Edwards and all of Lucasfilm, who we're going to be seeing a Star Wars movie once a year, guys. I put 2 fingers up, but once a year. Once a year.